A very good evening and thanks for clicking on to the Saturday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. One of the first and foremost look at the snow cover across Scandinavia at this moment in time because, by the way, it's actually pretty ahead of schedule, I think, when you think of the time of the year. We've got almost, half of the Scandinavian landmass, so of course that includes Norway, Sweden and Finland, is snow covered at this moment in time, and that is quite interesting to see. Whether it has any kind of burn on anything in particular remains to be seen, but certainly it is interesting to see how much we're expanding the snow cover for late October over Scandinavia, and this is definitely ahead of recent years. If you look at the current surface chart here of the GFS, you can see that we've got an area of high pressure sitting bang slap over that snow cover, and with that, we're seeing temperatures responding. So clear skies, light winds, snow covered ground. We're talking about the first -20s of the season so far in Sweden. This particular location here, which I am not even going to attempt to pronounce, is sitting on -21 Celsius. So a rather cold night, and it's only about 8 p.m. local time over this part of the world here. So big contrast actually. The UK bathed in warmer conditions once again. The reason being is because we've got an area of low pressure over the Atlantic to the west of the UK, and of course when you've got low pressure to the west, high pressure over the continent, you've got that southwesterly flow, the good old southwesterly flow that brings nice, mild, wet, and windy conditions. Don't we just love it here in the British Isles? High pressure over the heart of Europe is also bringing a fairly chilly night. If you look at the temperatures here over Germany and parts of eastern France, the Alpine region, temperatures dropping fairly nicely here this evening under clear skies as well. So a fairly chilly night across the heart of Europe, but under the influence of a frontal system, the British Isles is bathed in a fairly mild night indeed. So as we go forward over the next 24 hours, we've got a frontal system that's going to, kind of track its way eastwards across the UK. Very heavy rainfall, persistent rainfall through the course of tonight. Parts of Argyll, Lochaber, into the Glasgow area, Ayrshire in particular, under a yellow warning for heavy rainfall. So we may see some quite nasty road conditions through the overnight period tonight. That frontal system will make its slow progress eastwards. Then we're left with a legacy of blustery showers behind that frontal system here. As we go forward through into the new working week, we've got a new frontal system, new area of low pressure to contend with for the British Isles here. That will sweep its way in during the course of next week here, as you can see here. So, nothing really to write home about. A fairly, dare I say, a fairly benign pattern. There's nothing in the way of anything particularly cold. There's nothing in the way of anything particularly of interest at this moment in time. We've got a fairly, it's warmer than normal, but it's a fairly kind of benign type pattern in a sense as well. Wind and rain. In between that, we're going to see nicer weather. It's pretty much run-of-the-mill stuff, really, when you think about it. Looking at the GFS 500 millibar height anomalies here, you can see here what happens. So as we go through next week, above normal heights, Scandinavia extending into the heart of Europe, low pressure, always closest to Iceland here, so we get that southwesterly airflow here, as you can see. Then we get a bump in the isobars here, we get high pressure kind of building in once again, but always that low pressure near Iceland, always knocking on the door here. So you can see what happens as we go forward here. That area of low pressure eventually moves in across the UK towards the end of the month and into the month of November. What is interesting is, by the way, that we may have something a little bit more interesting, shall we say, towards the end of the first week in November here. Long way off, and I'm really kind of hesitant and even kind of making mention of this because it's so far off. The models kind of go back and forward. But if you notice here that we look at the 2 meter temperature anomalies, this is the 5-day average. Upcoming 5 days warmer than normal. Heart of Europe, especially across the Balkan region here, is colder than normal, if you notice here. But certainly Ireland, UK, Scandinavia, interestingly enough, warmer than normal here. In the 6 to 10 day, well, the GFS ensemble has a bit of a blowtorch going on across the UK. The 11 to 15 gets a little bit more interesting, warm across Eastern Europe, but notice here we're starting to pick up below normal temperatures here across the UK and Ireland here. So is it indicating, is it sniffing out something in terms of blocking? Well, that of course remains to be seen. So that's it for today. Hope you have a great one, and I'll be back in the next couple of days as always with more. Bye for now.